We're ready to start the meeting here. This is the April meeting of the Wallala Municipal Advisory Council. Today is Wednesday, the 2nd of April. I've called the meeting to order. There's introductions that will go around. There's 5 of us council members here tonight, starting with on the left here.
Henry Mayer,
Dan Lewis,
Don Hess,
Robert Youngling.
and Dave Schbach.
Okay. Those in the audience, we have 2, or I think I see 2 or 3 out in the audience as far as our virtual goes, and then in the audience out here we have John Bauer and George Proje. That tough French name was okay. So we have an agenda to review here. Any additional changes or additions?
Couple additions to the correspondence, kind of late breaking items that we distributed after the agenda went out. One is a couple for me. One on the 31st about short-term rentals. The county's contemplating some adjustments in the regulations related to that.
Okay, I got that one. Yeah.
A note from Councilmember Hayward that he would be absent from our meeting today. And another note for me, forwarding some notes that were taken by the League of Women Voters at the last Grassroots Institute Local Coastal Program Update webinar. So that's it. Those are the only changes that I have to recommend.
Okay, and I probably should have mentioned under call to order and introductions that Melissa Finley and I spoke today by phone, and she'll be excused for tonight's meeting. She is still suffering health issues. So
can we go back one?
Any
Dave? As
Dave, you have a
on that particular notice, there was an asterisk right underneath that that said for inland areas only.
oh yeah.
So we may not be qualified to make comments to that. I don't know. That's something you guys can find out.
Well, we'll see, maybe we agendize it when it becomes out here on the coast at some point, but I saw that too, that it was inland, yeah. Okay, anything else under correspondence or that we need to do on agenda revisions? Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion to approve our tonight's agenda as amended.
Move to approve.
second.
Thank you. Okay, all vote here, Henry,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Dave,
Yeah, aye.
and Robert. Aye. Okay, let me have our approval of the minutes from March 5th meeting. Did we have any additions or changes to those meeting minutes? Anybody? No?
Robert, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I watched the YouTube and listened to it. And I also had some issues with hearing the online voices from people who either were staff or people commenting online that they wasn't picking them up very well. And I don't know whether that's me or an online connection or however that went. But also on the YouTube, toward the end of it, I had kind of a complicated difficulty, but the YouTube recording did not show it.
Okay. So that's we can note
Robert?
that. What's that?
Just a brief comment on that. Sometimes the audio quality really is dependent on the person that's connected remotely and it's their microphone. There's a wide variety of microphones that people use. Some are much better than others. And that can impact clearly the audio quality that we get on the recording.
Well, I'm thinking, if I could help you on that, Don, give me a call. We'll arrange. If I can help you with your.
Do you have audio equipment or what?
No. You finance it.
Okay.
Okay, so noted, John, your comments, and I'm sure Dave will reflect that in tonight's meeting minutes. So then we'll move on to, oh yeah, on the minutes, can we have a motion to approve those as written?
I'll move to approve the minutes as written.
Okay, and a second, anybody?
Second.
Dan, okay. Vote on that, Henry,
Aye.
Dan,
All right.
Don,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
and Robert, aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for reminding me on that. So we'll move on to. We have the correspondence, now we have public comment. Anybody in the audience, we have a maximum of 3 minutes is reserved for members of the public to address the the Municipal Advisory Council on items not listed on the agenda. And the total time for public input on the particular issue is limited to 20 minutes.
Thank
Please,
you,
please
Robert.
come closer to the microphone and then we can. A lot of corn there, so you make.
I don't know if this will help you.
Put the mic in front
No,
of you.
I'll stick it up.
Okay.
One of my subject matters was the hearing of you guys and, the online voices, especially the county, staff people who were presenting some sort of project, and it just didn't come in. I'm sorry. If we can improve that, if Don and I can work something out to help improve that, I'd love to help, because my second choice is not to come to a meeting. And that's not where I want to be. And I don't know if there's any, I want to say, availability of funds for those who are not necessarily in their full health to be able to participate in this meeting, and that's my hearing. So I don't know if that's something that's available. I think there's 3 other things, and I'm sorry that it might take me a little longer. One of them is, I think you're going to discuss it today, the park project.
Yep.
Which is, okay, so I'll pass that one up. Another one is a very important one to myself as a utility owner. And that's that Hopland was having some problems with the Caltrans. It is noted under the Caltrans item for MCOG, I believe. But Hopland was having a hard time because it's a small district, affording to change and move all their facilities of the water infrastructure to satisfy Caltrans' new desires for additional space and to have it moved outside of the street prism. And there are some things going on. Caltrans modified their project in that note, and you could look at it. I think it's online, to have this particular project stepped instead of all the way through, so that the district could come up with something. And in the interim, there's an assembly bill that one of the assembly people came up with. I think it's 830. That was, and again, it's kind of most important to me. 830 is supposedly going to stop Caltrans from commanding us to change our facilities when they're first in the street and we're second or third or fourth. If we were first in the street and Caltrans were second, third, or fourth with their highway, they would have to pay for moving it. But it looks like this new bill may make it possible, if it goes forward, for utilities to be paid to move their facilities in the street for Caltrans projects. Not only does it take the burden off a small utility like us, but it also takes the issue with slowing down and halting the project for somebody to do something else in the project. from Caltrans' perspective, it would speed up projects. So, that's just that. I don't know if I can get to the next one. Oh, well, Dave kind of had one of those there, so, it'll come to me later. Thank you.
Okay, John, thank you. Anybody else in the public would like to speak? Go ahead, George.
Okay, I mentioned this once before in meeting a couple of months ago, but I want to bring it up again because there are things afoot to get started again on the town plan. I understand that there are people that are going to be brought in to help with that. One of the problems with updating the town plan is that not everybody is familiar with the history that we went through in getting the heliport licensed with the state of California. And during the process of getting permit approval and getting approval by the Board of Supervisors to forward the application to the state, there was a vote taken and a resolution that was passed to update and change the zoning in this surrounding area here. I think the current zoning is plan GPD, so the acronym for it, plan development. And one of the things that the town plan calls for is a set aside for residential construction in this area, this immediate area, these 4 parcels in this area. It's something that I could take on and try to resurrect, but I think it would be valuable for GMAC to have someone appointed on your committee to put in a request with the secretary for the board of supervisors to resurrect the minutes of those meetings that were held regarding the heliport licensing, because the county made a promise to not just the people at RCMS, but really to this community to take care of the rezoning at the county's expense. And I believe that the motion was made by Mr. McGowan, if my memory serves me correctly. He might have personal memory of that event. He also donated $1,000 out of his own pocket to the work that was being done to restore the helipad and bring it into compliance with state requirements. So that's my request. I hope it's clear enough. The timing on that, unfortunately, it took place over a period of about 4 years. So I don't remember exactly the date that the approval was given, but I believe it was sometime in 2016, 2017, somewhere in that time frame. It should be easy for the secretary to probably pull those minutes up, because I think they have a search engine that helps them to do that. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bellinger. Any other public comment on non-agenda items?
Actually, sorry, real quick. I just want to make sure I understand that. So you're saying the county had made a promise to fund a rezoning application for the parcels near the helipad and never did that.
They never did it. No, they never did it, never followed through. And the problem, I didn't present it clearly, but the problem with that is that any building plans that the clinic sets forth in the future to expand that clinic are hampered by the current zoning requirements. Okay. We should not have any residential construction up in this area with ambulances and helicopters landing. It doesn't make any sense to leave it the way it was originally planned.
Okay, we've heard
Understood,
your
yeah.
comment. It's been clarified, and
Yeah.
that's probably where we should leave it for now, but I'm sure Dave has taken the meeting minutes and we got you on the recorder. So yeah, we'll look into it.
Maybe we could have a report next meeting.
We can look into it. So Anybody in the audience or these people are all for specific items, correct? But maybe we should move on to item 6. We have Sheriff Matt Kendall is in the audience, so we know we have a code enforcement report tonight. Good evening, Matt.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me well?
We can hear you as we turn up the volume here, I think.
Can only turn it up so far before we get some feedback.
I can hear you on Zoom.
That's
Thank
better.
you.
Go ahead, Matt.
So Walla kind of had the South Coast area kind of had a slow crime month. And we had a lot of extra patrols down there. We've had like over 30 extra patrols logged in the last month. But that's because we have a resident down there who's working, quite a bit. We were able to make the arrest on Mr. Edgar Correa. As you folks remember, we had that homicide up the ridge in January of 23. We began working with the FBI and Los Angeles Police Department. We got a tip from them that he was likely in the Los Angeles area. We worked with him for approximately a month, and they were able to identify a location where he was, and we were able to take him into custody. My detectives went down there immediately, and I already had some corrections officers who were transporting a prisoner down to the Los Angeles area. So they were able to pick him up. We got him back up to Mendocino County and completed our investigation on that homicide. And so he's in custody. Charges have been filed. He confessed to it. And so we've got that one kind of taken care of there. I know it took a year, but he was living under an assumed name in the Los Angeles area when we were able to finally, get a grab on him. Just a couple of other things. The jail build is going well. Even with all of the rain, my hat is off to Broward Builders. They brought in extra concrete masons and block masons. And in between those rainy periods, and we've had a lot of them, it's been a good rain year for us. They've really made up some time. We're still, within about 30 days plus or minus of completion in January of 26. And so my hat's off to them. They're doing a good job. The only other thing is we've got 2 more people who got off of training. One of them is immediately being assigned to the coast area. So you're going to have another deputy on the coast. Now I'm still down personnel, but my numbers are coming up. If I can get all of these folks off of training, I'll be up to just about, I'll be right at about 39 out of my allotted 51, which is a whole lot better than where I was with 29 out of my allotted 51 this time last year. So anyway, I don't know if Deputy McNally's down there, and I'm sorry I haven't made the last couple, but when you guys changed the dates, you're conflicting with Round Valley's MAC meeting as well. And so I've been trying to get to yours and get to Round Valley's, but Deputy McNally's been helping me out there, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that anybody has.
We will be temporarily meeting for I don't know how many more Wednesdays, and then we'll get back to our Thursday evening routine. Matt.
Okay. And I would have run over there today, but I would have run over there today, but my grandson was at the house this afternoon. And so I wanted to get off work on time so I could see that little grandbaby a little bit.
I think we're back July, back to Thursdays, I think, right? June back to Thursdays.
In June,
just one more.
We'll be back to Thursday nights here.
Okay. And I'll try to alternate between Round Valley and you guys. And then I'll get back to my routine of coming down and seeing you while I visit the upper crust pizza at the same time. Mm-hmm.
Great. Sheriff, do you have any updates on the incident that happened on Old Stage last week, the tragedy?
That the Highway Patrol, we dealt with the coroner's portion of it. The Highway Patrol is doing the investigation, and so I don't have very many updates on that. I'm kind of waiting for the Highway Patrol to come out with some facts on that.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask too.
Yeah, we're talking about the vehicle accident, correct?
Yeah.
With the 2 kids.
Yeah.
Hang on a second, John. Well, anybody else from the council?
Sheriff, did I hear that you also have a dispatcher opening up there? Somebody was asking me about that.
Yes, we currently have another dispatcher opening. So we had one who took a job with the Ukiah Police Department. We were able to fill that opening, but then we had another one that took a job with the California Highway Patrol. And so, yes, we're hiring for dispatch. We do have a couple of positions in our professional staff for legal secretary. We have corrections officers positions and deputy sheriff's positions still open.
Thank you. Anybody else before we go to the audience? No? Dave, no? John, go ahead.
Thank you.
Justin.
Excuse me. One of the issues that I think a lot of people have in our community is that we don't have good walkability on our rural county roads. And that kind of drops into not only cars going off the side of the road or horrible incidents like you dealt with, but it goes into everybody else's safety. And if they have to go across the main yellow line to pass by somebody that all of a sudden is on the edge of the asphalt, not outside of the street prism, but inside of it, and there's a car on the other side, it is not going to be pretty. And so I've seen a lot of this on the comments for the, was it RTP, Dave? The transportation plan. I don't know whether we can help convince the county that it's really important to do more mowing, but they just started mowing last week and all this stuff is hanging out over the fog stripe, which means you're not going to be able to stay in that lane unless you want to be mowing the stuff down also. So I hope that maybe that can be passed on, and even though the county did start last week, maybe because of some of those comments that went to the RTP. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I will pass that along to Department of Transportation. And you're correct. We have so many of these county roads with unimproved shoulders that if we don't keep them mowed back just to keep from hitting your windshield with things, you actually have to be kind of to the right of center. And, you know, it's absolutely concerning, but I'll pass that along to DOT.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Kendall? Audience wise, council wise, no?
Thank you very much, Sheriff. Good to hear your
Thank
voice.
you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for
Have a good evening.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Robert,
Okay, yeah,
can I pose a question to John?
sure.
John, were you able to hear that? What the sheriff was
It
saying?
was better because I think you fine tuned it a little bit.
Yeah,
It brought it back up. I'm thinking that maybe having a speaker that's not necessarily pointed toward you guys.
yeah. Okay, well,
Can be all around.
that's one option we have, is to put up a second speaker, face it that way,
That'd be great.
or somehow put this one in a position where it is facing that way. But the other possible solution is for you to get one of these. And that I have a second input plug for a second set of monitor, headphones. You'd need a 25-foot cable,
Sure.
but you would hear everything perfectly, because this is
You're gonna have a lot of people.
this is what's recorded.
As we get over. Thank you.
Well, that's just one suggestion, but yeah, another
I think
speaker.
hearing aids out to do that, because otherwise there's.
I see, okay, so yeah, another speaker or repositioning this probably is the best solution. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chris. We just heard from Matt Kendall, and we were just about to move on to the agenda, but since you just dropped in.
Yes, sir, my apologies.
No.
I was working on a project at home and neglected to set my alarm properly on my phone.
We're happy to see you.
And my wife stuck her head out the door and said, "Aren't you supposed to be somewhere?" And I went, "Yes, absolutely."
You got the floor.
Did he
okay?
check off already, or is
Yeah, he
it?
just checked
Okay.
off, and then Don was saying some things here, but you're welcome to speak.
Well, I appreciate your time, guys. I
Thank you for
apologize
coming.
for my tardiness.
No problem.
I want to start off like I normally do, to let you know, between 3/1 and 3/31, there was 274 calls on the South Coast total. Gualala had 55 of those. There was one 911 hang up, 3 alarms, 1 assault, 1 citizen assist, 2 attempts at civil papers, 3 just general disturbance calls, 1 fraud call, 1 follow-up investigation. That's just me literally getting on the radio and saying I'll be out at this location to follow up on someone, and then somebody else putting another incident in for it. So 1 mental health call, 33 security checks. So that's 33 separate times a deputy made a specific area and said, I'm specifically in this area at this moment. Like we'll do checks like sometimes at the art center, or I'll hit like Wall of Maine a lot, or Bower Park. Probably a third of those are on Bower Park. We had a report of some homeless folks hanging out in Bower Park for a while. So we try and get in there and do that stuff, or like Ocean Ridge Airport. So literally it's me getting on the air and saying, hey, I'm out at this location at this time. Would you guys log a security check for that? Just kind of like I'm here kind of thing. 2 traffic stops, 1 trespass call, 1 unwanted subject, and 2 welfare checks. So, you know, the property crimes are not going away for us. They are going down a little bit. And a lot of that is just our presence is a little heavier. I'm sure you guys are seeing me roll around if you're out at all. I'm trying to spend a lot of time up on the ridge as well as down in here and everywhere else to try and just hopefully by my presence kind of slowing things down a little bit. So did you guys have any questions about anything going on specifically, or?
Henry was asking about that accident up on the ridge, and I don't know if you know anything more.
I actually worked that call, but there's not a lot that I'm authorized to publicly speak about in regard to that, especially with the age of the folks that were involved and some other things like that. It's just, you know, we try and protect the families as much as we can in that. My job as a deputy sheriff, deputy coroner, as I arrive, I'll render aid where I can. If not, at that point, it's going to be my job to determine the cause and manner of death. So it was a death investigation.
Totally understand. We just had to ask.
Right, no, sir, I do, I appreciate your call. If it was something that I could answer, I would be happy to for you. I'm just not authorized on behalf.
Understand.
And it, you know, it would be me speaking on things. I wouldn't want people speaking about my family. So.
I'll just extend my sympathies, not just to the people involved, but I know that must be traumatic for responders as well.
I think it was very taxing on a lot of the folks that were there. Yeah, there was a lot of, you've got an amazing fire department here. Your fire department did a great job, and so did the ambulance service that was there. And CHP sent 2 officers, and I mean, it went as smoothly as it possibly could. Right. Yeah.
So any questions for Mr. McAnally? Is that right? McNally?
McNally's fine, yeah.
Chris.
Chris is fine.
Hopefully there's a pizza in your future before you go home.
Oh, not tonight, not
Oh,
tonight.
you can pick it.
No,
Oh.
I had homemade dinner tonight, so yeah, it could have been better. I'd rather have that than anything else anyway. So again, we want you guys to keep calling. You're not bothering us with anything, right? It's our job. And the more that you see that you let me know is going on might be something I can take care of in a different area. Right? If he tells me a piece of information and you tell me a different piece of the information and you tell me something else, it might be something I'm working on and it might all come together for me. If that makes sense. Sometimes my job is just putting together pieces of information and going, now it all makes sense. Okay. I appreciate your time again, and I apologize for my tardiness.
No.
I was knee deep in a home project until I was told by my bride. She's like, hey, aren't you supposed to be somewhere?
Thanks for dropping in so timely.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the time. It's good to see everybody. Take
Okay.
care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Drive safe out there.
Okay. Now we have our next item on the agenda, number 7, that would be public agency referrals. And for discussion and action, we have the use permit 2025-0002 Michael Cook with Integra. The request on that use permit is coastal development use permit for Bower Park restoration and improvement grant project to improve recreational facilities and provide improved accessibility to these features within the park. The project includes various upgrades and repairs to existing amenities, as well as the addition of a few new amenities. Usually we let the applicant speak a little bit. Is there somebody here from the Cook person we saw, right? Mike Cook.
Mike, are you representing the county? Or will Director Krogh be joining us this evening? Right now, you're on mute, Mike, just in case you're responding.
You got the floor, Mike.
You could hit that ask to unmute button. Oh, yeah.
I'm asking him to unmute.
Well, while he's figuring that out, he might have stepped away.
Yeah, I might have stepped
You
away.
guys want to pitch?
Yeah, I could go ahead and get started.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I could make a comment on that.
Not yet.
Well, why don't you wait until we deal with it first, and then we'll happily include you. Mr. Barrow.
Oh, you got the thing.
We'll just make this one, yeah.
This is to talk about the Bower Park improvement project. Just a couple of notes before I get started. One is that this is a permit review, which is not exactly the same as us reviewing the project. We're trying to review the permit here and render advisory motion about approval of the permit or otherwise. And then the other is just to note that as I go through this, I realize not everything that they are permitting is likely to happen. What is permitted is not necessarily exactly the same as what's budgeted, and what's budgeted is not necessarily exactly the same as what's built. So I just think it's worth keeping that in mind. I don't want to overpromise. All that said, I think the best place to start is the project description, which Don, if you could go to page 58. This was a beast of a CDP. It's 360 pages.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't just search and go to 58.
Yeah, sorry.
I saw 41.
I can probably tell you where to stop once you get there. It's a little further. Oh, here we go. Nope, just down a little bit, down a couple pages, right there.
Right here?
Oh, wait. No, sorry, that has the mitigation measures a little further down.
A little further down. Okay.
Oh, actually, it's a decent amount further down. It's probably another 15 pages.
This would be-
Yeah, a little further, a little further,
I'm sorry?
a little further. Keep going, keep it going. Here we go.
Right here.
Okay, so if you go down a little bit, that's the introduction. We can skip over that. Scroll down, it'll be number 2 in this list. If you keep going, sorry. Apparently we don't get page numbers on here. We're getting close, further. Here we go. Okay, so probably most people listening are already familiar with what's there at Bower Park, so I'll skip over the current amenities and go straight to the project. Will make improvements to existing amenities. So parking lots will be expanded and paved, adding 47 parking stalls, including 4 ADA stalls. And a certain amount of that, there's the building at the front of Bower Park that is dilapidated and is going to be demolished. Which hasn't been open in my time here, but I gather was a community space, but they're not intending to repair that. So there will be parking there in addition to improvements in the existing parking areas. Existing fencing around the pond will be replaced and the damaged spillway boardwalk will be rebuilt. Picnic areas will be renovated and new picnic areas will be added with accessibility for disabled persons. If you could scroll to the next page. The fence around the baseball soccer field will be removed and replaced. The backstop and dugouts will be repaired. Concession stand roof will be repaired. New inclusive play equipment will be installed at the existing playground. To expand on that a little bit, it's actually an expansion of where the current 5 to 12 playground is. They'll be adding a whole new 2 to 5 playground next to that and getting rid of the old 2 to 5 playground, which is unfortunately right next to a parking lot. So the 2 to 5 equipment will all be brand new. The 5 to 12, they'll be adding new equipment and replacing some existing damaged equipment. Tennis court pavement will be removed and replaced with a smaller footprint. The new court will be repainted to include 1 tennis court and 1 pickleball court. The area, the old footprint that is not repaved will be filled with decomposed granite to make a border around the new concrete pad. The basketball court will be expanded from half court to full court. Footprint will be expanded by approximately 4,100 square feet. All walking paths throughout the park will be repaired and ramps will be added for ADA compliance and improved safety. Walking paths will be surfaced with decomposed granite, asphalt, or concrete. Restrooms will be replaced. And then it says the project will add the following new amenities. And again, I would stress, this is what's permitted, not 100% guaranteed. This is what will happen. Outdoor fitness equipment located at 5 to 6 locations around the walking paths. A viewing area added to the southwest end of the pond. 2 new picnic areas to be constructed, one in the middle of the park near the existing picnic area and one at the southeast side of the pond near the park entrance. That's where the current 2 to 5 playground is. Half-acre fenced dog area will be developed along the western boundary of the park near the playground area. Security lighting is being considered near parking areas for nighttime security only. New water and electricity infrastructure will be installed to bring the park up to current codes. And I will add that aside from the infrastructure required for codes, I think all of those things are ad alternatives that will only happen if there's budget available for them. Yes.
So is that why there's question marks on front of all these, because we're not totally sure that they may happen, or why the question marks happen in this? Because I wanted to.
I think that's a printing error.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just bullet points in the document.
But there was a nice map that came with it too. And
Yeah, so that's the next thing, which I'm hoping we can show here.
Right.
So you can see at the top left corner, that's the ball field that currently exists. And then if you go a little bit down from there, that's where the 2 play areas will be, those rectangles. Underneath the large sort of light brown rectangle, that's where the dog park would be. You can see the tennis court improvements down at the bottom.
Henry, can you point to that?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Where's the dog park?
The dog park would be right here.
Uh-huh.
Here are the play areas. Tennis court, obviously, around here, the basketball court turns and gets expanded. This is where the new picnic area would be, replacing the old 2 to 5 playground. You can see the parking, and then here's where that old dilapidated building is that would get demolished. So there'd be parking there. Some expansion of the parking here. And the ADA stalls will be over here. And then improvements to the ball field as detailed before. And then obviously the repairs to the walking paths and the fencing. That pretty much summarizes the project. Any questions before I move on to some of the other sort of?
Yeah, the 47 parking spaces, can you show us that, where that is again?
Yeah, so there's some here where there's existing parking. There's some here where the building is. This is an expansion of current existing parking. And then I believe this is new. I don't think there's any asphalt there. And this is where the ADA spaces would be, very close to the ball field.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions before I move on to some other permitting details?
Do you want to take a question from the audience yet, or?
Yeah, sure. We can
Okay.
take.
I can't wait till you're.
No. This is a good. Well, let's pause and do this. I don't anticipate a ton of questions about the remaining stuff, but.
I'll say here.
John?
Excuse me. For plenty of parking. And where we are right now, there is insufficient parking. But I think that 47 is very minimal parking. And I know people will park on my side of the street when it becomes full, and it does many times when the ball games are being played. I mean, it's just not enough. I think you should have 100 parking places. And I don't know if there's enough room to move into some of the areas that might be considered ESHAs. Right alongside the front of the highway. I don't know whether that's an ESHA or not, but 100 would be, a better choice. 47, if that's all there is, not going to work. You might catch 15 or 20 more out on the street, but then they're going up toward the lots and in That's one item, okay?
Just a quick response on that. This is a good, I wish I knew the answer to this question, but the way it's written as there are currently 20 stalls, and it's talking about adding 47. And I'm not sure whether that is, the one way to read that is that it would go up to 67. That was not how I initially read it, but I will ask for
It
clarification.
would be
on
nice
that.
to have a rendition of the northeast edge next to the roadway, because they took all the pine trees out of there that were in danger of falling on the next guy's lot and house. And I wonder what that would look like if it were in parking. But that's a convenient place for people to park. Anyway, that was just one.
Maybe Michael can fill us in on that.
Well, we can wait till next meeting, but I think next meeting will be after this is approved. The coastal permit is approved, and it probably has lots of room for nudging and changing, and because this is a big plan and there are going to be lots of issues. Inside the fence around the pond, especially right behind the building that's going to be demolished, is a monstrous group of Scotch broom. It's all in blossom right now. You can see it, you can find it, you can pull it. If that doesn't happen really quick, there's going to be years and years and years of more of that, and some of that's already going to come up in a few years, but to try to maintain it now is a very good move. Than waiting for a few more years and see how monstrous it gets, especially since there are barren spots all over the park that the Scotch broom can get seeded in. So they need to have an ongoing invasive species containment program of some sort. The Bishop Pines, if you notice in the document, it says that they will be replaced. We're all gonna go, what the hell? Why are we replacing Bishop Pines when we could have nice redwood trees planted out there? And a Bishop Pine has a short life, 30, 40 years maybe. And every Bishop Pine I know likes to drop chunks of limbs. And, my experience has been sitting at a table away from a table that a probably 1.5 pound limb hit the middle of during a Lions Club picnic when there were people on both sides of the table, and I don't know how it missed them. But if this is allowed and we let it come back, plus they all love to fall over. I mean, you could look out the back door here and say, what the heck happened to all those Bishop Pines? They fell over because there's nothing to protect them. There's no windbreak. And unless you plant them all over, and I think one of the things my dad thought about when he donated the park was, we all have plenty of parks down on the coast where it's cold, windy, and foggy. Let's have one up on the ridge where we can have barbecues and things where it's warmer. So keep that in mind. To do that, maybe we don't need the Bishop Pines. They're also very flammable as they get up and the needles start gathering in the limbs. It's a monster. So that's my comments on that. Let's see, we had what about the building? Is it going to be replaced someplace else at the park?
No,
They're not gonna leave a building for any purpose up there.
no.
Maintenance, tools, equipment, anything that, needs to be there, or they're gonna drag it down from Fort Bragg every time. Yeah, I know. Of course,
I'd like to believe that we maintain
a
it.
shed full of equipment is a target too. So maybe that's not best safe for them. So anyway, I thought it would be nice to replace the building in some form. I think there are a few groups of people, maybe 5 to 15 or 20 people that would like to have a place to meet. And that's a superb place to meet. If they continue with a building there, you know, I would like to see the building.
But why not have the building somewhere in the interior?
Yeah,
Versus out
any
in front where the
place.
parking is needed, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that was. I mean,
I don't think
Six-
replacing the building is really
Yeah.
an issue with the coastal act. You're getting rid of it and replacing it in like and kind, so maybe better, but anyway. One other last thing at this point, I'm sorry to be so long. I'm used to being around a lot of pine trees, and you can tell from my discussions here. They're not the prettiest thing in the world. The redwoods are so much nicer and can be easily maintained. In fact, you could even make a hedge out of redwoods if you keep the tops cut down. Like I've got a couple of them in the airport driveway that are about chest height. Beautiful little hedge. And I started that, 40, 50 years ago, but they've been maintained and it's still there. The roots on the pine trees are going to wreak havoc with your new construction. How about, I want to say, the playgrounds, the other things, because they will rot out and become a void in the ground. I know they're ground. I wasn't there to witness how far they're ground, but probably not more than 5 or 6 inches. And so there's could be a foot or more of unstable area that becomes nothing underneath that, where somebody can fall in and break a leg. Hopefully they can remove those in the process of doing this site work, and for some distance on the side of the fringe of all the site work that's there. Yeah, it takes time. Yeah, it costs money. What's a broken leg cost? Yeah, you know, where do we go? Anyway, so those are my thoughts at this point. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just had a question. I'm still on the parking. I mean, I think it's a vast improvement to what was always there over all the years, where it was a disarray of parking, and then everybody was strewn all over the place. I didn't realize they were parking on the other side of, well, I guess I did, Old Stage
They
Road.
actually crowd Old Stage tremendously when they park both sides.
How wide is the easement there? I was wondering, but that's not pertinent to what we're doing here. But are there ADA parking lots, spaces up there? Never were, right?
I think
So that's an improvement.
There's one, yeah, are there two or there one?
There's one down by the playground,
Oh, yeah.
and there's one right
By
by
the
the
pond.
gate at the north end of the pond.
Okay.
No,
But now there's 4, okay. That's great.
It's pretty flat, so it really would accommodate ADA. One of the few places in our community that's flat enough to do it.
And plus that gets people with disabilities up into the action where there's things going on and not out by the roadway. Okay. No, any other questions from anybody? Go ahead, Don.
Just one quick comment. I would like to totally agree with John on the issue of redwood trees versus bishop pine. If I'm not mistaken, the vast majority of the trees that had to be cut down were bishop pines. Am I not correct there? So why would we replace those bishop pines as opposed to going to all redwoods if we're gonna plant any trees at all? Redwoods are lower maintenance. It's a tree that's more fireproof. And, yeah, as John pointed out, there's just a lot less maintenance and,
And it can take a lot of the things that the bishop pine can't.
yeah. And anyway, that's my point. I totally agree with John. I think we should just plant redwoods if we're planting any trees at all.
Now that
Redwoods and firs, but yeah. My reading of it said they were going to replace the trees. I don't believe I saw it say they were going to replace them with bishop pines. They just said they were going to replace the trees, didn't it?
In kind,
They didn't.
which means bishop pines.
Um,
If that's where I saw, I think it was under chapter 411 and weighing the hell down in the environmental or ESHAs maybe.
yeah, Yeah, I'm looking for that right now. Let's see,
And to me, that's been, I mean, the number one problem has been Bishop Pines up there.
Not just there.
And yeah, well, yeah, and like I said, right out here, you know, there's 20 of them dead right out here, leaning and dead on the ground. Yes.
sorry, let me see if I can,
Hope you guys can bear with us on this.
Well, the other
Oh,
thing
yeah,
is
this is-
long-term maintenance, long-term maintenance may be a problem for this park.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in my mind, everything should be done to minimize maintenance. And one way you do that is to not replant Bishop Pines.
yeah, so,
Strategically placed redwood trees would be.
Right, because the one exception I would want to see is that there's not too many redwoods planted up by the leach field of the restroom.
Well,
We all know that, right?
that's a mound system and it has.
Is it a mound
It
system?
has redwoods over toward the local residential
Homeowners.
houses.
Yeah,
So it's not really oh, you need to plant pine trees out here, because no.
See if I can get Mara after lunch next week.
so I will say, I know. One reason. Yeah, I mean, I agree, I would much rather see redwoods up there. I think there are environmental concerns that I'm guessing are,
Their consultants on
Restraining.
ashes and Bishop Pine Forest are probably getting nailed on this particular subject, and I think this is time for us to arch our backs and say, no.
No.
It's not an appropriate place for them, where the kids are running around, where there's more chance of other things happening with them.
yeah, so, I mean, I know they're saying that they need to have an active management plan for the Bishop Pine Forest. And they, I'm trying to pull up this point that they made. Let's see. They said in this that the Bishop Pine woodland is an environmentally sensitive, is designated environmentally sensitive. It's providing habitat, and I think that they get into a whole pile of worms if they start trying to pull that out.
What do the mitigation measures say regarding tree replacement?
Mitigation measures, sorry. Sorry, hard to find things in 360 pages. Yeah, no, I know. Actually, they talked, you know, we can go up to, I think it's page 38, actually has a summary of a lot of that stuff. So if you go about 20 pages
Up,
yeah.
Some point, though, GMAC can certainly recommend how the county would approach tree replacements. So if GMAC feels that
Yeah.
Bishop Pine is an inappropriate species to place in this area, which is a completely manipulated landscape, that the redwood is a better performer and safer tree, and for whatever reason GMAC has other feelings, I think it's within our remit to offer our perspective.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So
Yeah, as in, yeah, I mean, the explanation I'm pretty sure is, that it's designated as sensitive. Yeah, so can be characterized as the Bishop Pine Monterey Pine Forest and Woodland Alliance. This alliance is considered to be a sensitive natural community according to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. CDFW's sensitive natural communities may also be considered ESHAs under the coastal element of the general plan. That doesn't mean it's impossible, but it means that there are more hoops to jump through. I would say,
Well,
I don't think this is any reason for us not to include our concerns.
Make a
The
recommendation.
timing is tight.
right, that's
Yeah.
what this agenda item is for, is for
Yep.
us to make comments and recommendations, right?
Fully
And
agree.
aren't Redwood communities, aren't those part of issues in some regard? So why wouldn't it
Because it's already,
possibly fit in?
because it's already there.
Okay,
I think is the answer to that question.
Well,
And similarly with the Scotch Broom, I know their goal is to stay away from the pond as much as possible. That gets into US waters issues, and there's just another whole kettle of fish involved. The more there are incursions into that space.
Yeah,
Again, I don't think that's a reason for us not to say, you know, this is a concern and it's something we'd like to see
Well,
addressed, as long as we're working on it.
you can get the community now and get rid of what has sprouted today. But Scotch broom seeds can maintain their viability to produce a plant for at least 9 years. And, you know, if you do it today and you do it for 8 more years, maybe you got them. Who knows?
yeah.
You know, if you look across the street at the idiot across the street, they're all gone. Pull them out. Gone. Except for a few mean ones.
Henry?
Mhm.
Then I was wondering about, the basketball court is getting enlarged, right? From a half court to a full court. Does that mean some vegetation has to be taken out in that area? I haven't been up there in a long time, but I thought there were some nice redwoods in that vicinity, so that's taking away some redwoods that could maybe be replanted somewhere else if. Just
it
a
may
thought.
not be a large change in the actual disturbed footprint.
Okay,
Right now, there's quite a bit of funky asphalt down right at the moment,
Mhm.
and that was an area that also had a bunch of hazard trees removed.
okay.
There's also park course improvements in there that are gonna go out, so. I think Integra, the landscape architecture firm, and I don't know if Mike Cook is able to speak, but. They did a really good job finding the places where, there was minimal additional impervious surface.
Mhm.
So they've really done a good job fitting it in there with minimum.
Right, well, you know, I mean, I think this whole plan is great myself, because many years was up at the tennis courts, for instance, and I know they're infiltrated with redwood roots, so they're gonna have a big job on their hands just
Got some kind of-
restoring that area. And to have a pickleball court and what this court, I think is a great thing. But anyway, do we have a microphone here, or did you
Yeah,
take it
yeah.
earlier? Yeah. That was yours, John. So anyway, that was another thing that occurred to me, and then this whole spillway thing I got resolved too. Apparently, they're gonna redo that, the damaged spillway, so.
They're gonna
That's a-
repair it, again. I would say. If you were greenfielding this, you would want to build that pretty differently. But they're not, and all this gets into US waters issues, and I think they have scaled back initial plans on that, as a result of trying to avoid getting into a whole other, you know, set of problems.
Okay.
You know, budget is tight, gonna get tighter. And soft costs are already very substantial. And the more you get into that sort of thing, just the higher those costs are gonna go. And they, I think, elected to stay away from from US waters issues, to the extent possible. Something I maybe should have mentioned a little bit earlier, but in terms of timing, they have noticed planning commission meeting on May 1st. And that'll be a public meeting. The last I heard, they were hoping to break ground July 1st. I have my skepticism about whether that date's going to get hit. I would love to see it. As they get, obviously, the later in the season they get, the more problems they're going to have relating to rain. There are also various environmental issues that get worse come November. Bat roosting season and other such issues where they're going to have on-site botanists as they get into November, depending on the kind of work that they're doing. That's going to increase soft costs substantially. So it's just, the sooner they can get this started, the better. They had hoped for June 1, that slipped to July 1 already. I'm not surprised by that. I will cross my fingers that they can still hit the July 1 date, but just as an update, if people had heard June 1, that most recent date I've heard is July 1. And then getting into the rest of this, so as I said, it's a massive CDP. They did a ton of diligence already on this. A lot of that is devoted to environmental issues. The biggest ones that they identified were a couple of rare or endangered plants, particularly swamp harebell and coast lily. So they have, fairly robust mitigation plan for that. They need to mitigate their impact on the pond and some other wetlands and drainage areas. So they have their mitigations plans for that. They detailed, I don't think people need to read it, but there's the mitigation plans. There's for special status plants. They have one which involves them, as I said, having an active management plan for the Bishop Pine Forest in order to provide for the long-term health of the forest habitat. That's has not yet been developed, but they have said that before issuing building permits that rely on the CDP, they need to have one. There's stuff to try to make sure they're not bringing in non-native invasive plant species, like cleaning equipment and clothing, protecting special status plants while they're doing it, putting in barriers. Then there's stuff about special status invertebrates. So they want to be careful about monarchs roosting in the trees. They don't think that is all that likely, but once they get to November, that's another consideration they have to take. They haven't found any California giant salamander or I can't remember, CRLF is red leaf frog, thank you. And then there's another, there's a toad as well, which they are going to be aware of. The one they think is most likely is the giant salamander. If they find it, they are going to need to bring in a biologist to relocate individuals. If it's the red leaf frog or the toad, the NWPT, do you remember? That is, I looked it up, but some kind of toad, I think. Those they can't move or herd. They have to wait for them to leave, and they have to stop work and then get U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to come help. So let's hope they don't run into any of that. If feasible, construction activities will occur during the non-breeding season for the red leaf frog, which is June through October. They're going to get past that. It calls for it was either 130 or 150 days of construction is what's in the plan. 150 days of activity within a 180-day construction period. And they say in early 2025, which depends on your definitions, I suppose. Let's see, sorry, where was I? Also stuff about nesting birds and special status bats. Protecting the various wetlands, which I've already detailed a few of them and some of that stuff. Cultural resources, they don't expect to find anything. It's park, got built before, they didn't find anything then. There's no reason to think they would find anything now, but they have a plan in case they do. Similarly, if they find any paleontological remains, they also need to do certain things about that, but again, they built a park there, they didn't find it before, no reason to think they would find it now. That goes through the mitigations. Yeah, I think I pretty much covered what I thought was useful to cover. I don't know if anybody else has any questions at the end of that.
Do we know if Michael Cook is still on?
Michael, are you with us?
So he may have dropped off.
He's gone. Yeah, he's gone.
Okay, so. Well, any of us have any other comments or recommendations to the presentation we've got from? Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing in. I know there's a lot to
A lot of
do.
stuff.
Thanks for taking it. I know this is one that we just had to get going because time is now kind of post essence. So thanks guys for doing the lift. Appreciate it.
Mr. Henry.
And my sense is that this is the project that we've been collectively wanting to have happen. And I appreciate that the county's moving it, that they too are feeling the urgency and the desire to hit this construction season. It's super important. Everybody's in this community is eager for this project to happen and get done. The timing is compatible with softball, which is really good. So, or excuse me, Little League will be done by the time shovels hit the dirt. Whether that's intentional or just the way things are going, that's just fine. Ultimately, they're still cranking on costs, and I don't know if you want to talk about the next item, your outreach as part of this discussion, or do you want to just deal with the permit and then do the other input separately? What's your preference?
I guess the way I see it, I think we're performing two separate, though obviously related responsibilities, one of which is reviewing the permit and the other of which is input on the project. So I think we should handle the permit first.
Got it.
And then we can also have our input.
That makes sense. And so, at your pleasure and yours, I'm prepared to make a motion regarding this, including recommendations.
Sorry, one other thing just before you make the motion. There are, I didn't think it was worth spending the council's time on it. There are a handful of just like small factual errors or typos that I came across while scouring through this that I want to send their way. None of them is important. None of them changes anything serious, but as long as I found the errors, they might as well fix it. So if you could include in your motion, I don't think we need to detail the specifics, but just yeah, and then I can flesh those out when I send them.
You have to send those to Dave, so he hasn't.
No, well, here's what strategically, the motion will be to direct the team to come up with comments, including those related to errors and omissions or adjustments. Yeah, the way I'd structure the motion on that topic is just to give you guys direction to report back on your observations of needed corrections. Without, I don't think we need to detail them here if it's, unless it's important.
None of them is controversial.
All right, yeah. Okay, so whenever you're ready. Well, I'm ready to move, but I think.
Audience,
I'm
any
available.
other council member?
I haven't made the motion, but I'm prepared to do it.
Go ahead, Tom.
I just want to, from Dave's comment in terms of thanking you for all the work you've done on this. I've spent a long time going over this project, and I think that's great. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
That said, I do, basically support the whole project pretty much as it is, with the exception of the trees. I think we really need to make a strong statement that we want redwood trees there and not any more bishop pines that will cause maintenance problems down the road. So that's
And
my
hazards.
I'm sorry,
And hazards.
and hazards, exactly.
I'm sure that'll be part of this motion, part of the motion, right?
Yes.
We're all unanimous on that thought,
Yes.
including the audience, man.
Okay, great.
Agreed, yes. I just spent thousands of dollars taking pines down that were threatening houses, and none of my redwoods are doing that.
Who is this again?
Now it's Corrine,
Corrine, okay,
Corrine, yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
And then we have a comment from John Bauer in the audience, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a safety thing. And I look at Cal Fire and they look at entrances and exits. Excuse me. Entrances and exits to single family dwelling and the necessity for it's called a hammerhead T in the driveway so they can turn their trucks around. And I know there's a kind of a loop around the pond. It, as far as I can tell, is only about 8 feet wide and has a pretty severe breakage of the asphalt on the edge. It really should be 12 foot. And there should be a couple spots out there where a fire truck and another fire truck could maybe find a spot and turn around, because there's really no place for vehicles out there at all unless they just drive through the trees. I don't think they're gonna do that, but so that safety part of this is not only for fire trucks, but also for ambulances. If something happens around the playground and a kid's injured, you want to try to get the ambulance as close as you can to the location. So keep that transportation issue alive so that we don't have problems with it later. Thank you.
Anybody else? Diane? No.
I would say that, you know, based on my experience in emergency services, that there would be no expectation of anybody driving a vehicle out of those. Other than maintenance, you know, lightweight maintenance vehicles. You're not gonna take a class 3 fire engine through there. There isn't sufficient road bed for it, for one thing, it'll just collapse the asphalt. It isn't based on that, you know, there isn't enough structure underneath. Ambulances you could maybe, but modern gurneys and methods of moving patients and things like that, they'll pull up in the parking lot, throw them in there. I don't think that's a major.
12 foot is still a measured number. Works.
Yeah, they're being treated from the site where they're met to the vehicle to the medical facility. So I don't, you know, they drag the gear with them to wherever it's going. I've seen some pretty amazing things that firefighters and EMTs do.
Okay, so I don't think we have any other council member or audience member comments, so I guess we're ready for you.
Give it a try.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to move that the GMAC recommend to Mendocino County Planning and Building Services and the Planning Commission that this permit be approved. That's number one. I'd also like to convey our comment that Bishop Pine not be replaced, that any replacement tree planting be redwood trees primarily, or to whatever extent something else has to be added, whatever it is, it's not Bishop Pine. And I think the third topic, that was really it. Oh, and I think a third topic is that the management plan that's developed for this project include Scotch broom removal and long-term treatment. Is there anything else you want me to add?
Just the errata.
Oh, thank you. And the fourth item in the recommendation is that the reviewers convey their identified matters of correction, minor corrections and adjustments as a result of their review.
Okay, great.
Does that work? Is that
Yeah.
actionable?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a second on that?
Second.
Oh, sorry, second.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Second from Henry. Okay, any final comment? Otherwise,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, Scotch broom is a real problem. But what I'm wondering, as opposed to asking them to include in some kind of budget item, removal of Scotch broom. But that just adds more cost to the project perhaps. Why couldn't, eventually we just have volunteers take it out? I mean, probably not that huge of an area. And a couple of people in, a couple hours or a couple of weekends could probably do it. It wouldn't cost anything.
Just for clarification, they have to prepare a management plan to deal with vegetation on site. They haven't done it yet. The management plan can describe exactly what those measures would be. It's not implementation, but it's a front end, pre-construction requirement.
Mhm.
So let's make sure the plan talks about broom removal and details what that is. Dealing with it on a maintenance issue, that's way past construction.
Yeah, okay.
I don't believe a budget item is included in that plan, so.
Yeah, the soft costs already include that. It's sort of a building permit type of element.
So it stays in the motion and we can still, in addition, still all volunteer once this has been restored, this flower park. Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Should we vote? Dan,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Henry,
Aye.
Dave,
Yes.
Robert, aye. Unanimous, okay, thanks. Henry, for all your work.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just gonna stay right here because
Okay, so we're gonna move right into old business, which is a little different here, as I'm understanding it. Our park rehabilitation project. Final input on specific design questions and priorities. Construction bid, add alternates, right?
Yeah.
So the recommended actions are to discuss input collected by the Bauer Park Renovation Committee and determine GMAC final comments, recommendations to the Mendocino County General Services Agency based on those comments from the Bauer Park Renovation Committee. Does that understand it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You mind pulling up the first of those, add alternative, let's start with add alternatives. So just for context here, so these were the surveys we talked about in our last meeting. I distributed them in various ways. We tried to get them through word of mouth networks. They were surveys were put up at grocery stores and Bauer Park and the post office and sent out to interested groups. So tried to get them out as far as we could. The other things, I have already, what's up here are the summaries that I sent already to Integra and to the county, as we discussed in our previous meeting, as they needed those things before we got to the next meeting. So the results of the community surveys have already been sent to them. So it's not going to be for us to review them, add any additional feedback that we'd like to. For the add alternate, we got 53 responses, and we listed a bunch of things. So these were items that may get included in the project depending on budget availability, that they want to solicit bids for, but are not necessarily part of the core features of the project. And so this requested that survey takers rank each item 1 to 5, from 1 being not important, 5 being very important.
Can that be magnified a little bit more or no? Oh yeah, that's better. Yeah.
So this was just the average rating for each of these items. This is all in a tight time frame, and we should say this is the input that we got. We can't say that it's representative, but it's the input that we got from the part of it. So additional play equipment was 4.5 out of 5 average rating. Walking path expansion 3.5, lighting 3.4, amphitheater repairs or improvements 3.2, group picnic improvements 3, outdoor fitness 2.7, walking path amenities 2.6, dog park 2.4. So that's how the 53 people that responded to the survey rated these various items.
It's from order of importance 0 to 5.
Yeah, 1 to 5.
1 to 5, 5 being the most.
5 being the most important. Yeah. So I ordered these in terms of the importance that people put on them. And then there were various text responses. This is these things are, this and the next one I'll talk about are both available on the website. I don't think we necessarily need to go through, all of the text responses, although there should be, oh yeah, if we scroll down a little bit, there's a chart, there's some charts that show the distribution of answers. I don't know how much additional detail that gives, but if you zoom out a little bit, we'll get the 5s in there as well.
So while you zoom in, just a quick question, if I might, on the additional play equipment. What is additional play equipment, things like park horse stuff, or is that different than, is the play equipment intended to be playground for various child age activity?
Playground for a very
Okay.
child age.
All right.
So it was,
Okay,
they had a few things that they were planning to do, and this was a question of adding more than they were. So if you scroll up, we can just kind of glance through these. If you scroll to the top, again, I ordered this in. These were not the question orders, which were randomized. This is the response, like the weighting order. So you can see additional player response equipment got very high number of 5s. Again, I should stress, a component of this is definitely going to be who took the survey. And a component of that is going to be who saw the request, which was on a short time frame. So it's the input we have, but
Yep.
we should keep that in mind. I personally agree with this as the parent of a 4-year-old, but I don't want to overstate how reliably representative it is.
Yeah, it's interesting to see these results. I know Don just mentioned that he hasn't put this on the website yet because he just got.
Oh, I put it.
Oh, you did? I didn't
Yeah.
see it on there either.
Sorry, that was how I interpreted your response to me. I put it on the website like an hour before this meeting.
Oh, we hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen it yet.
No,
Okay.
that's intentional.
I see.
Because we were within 72 hours of the meeting, the moment it gets to the board is also the
Gotcha.
moment it needs to be publicly available. So you all are seeing this now. It's been available since about 5 o'clock. But it's available to the public now, as you all are seeing it in accordance with Brown Act.
It's interesting to see how we did the survey. I know Melissa said she did the survey also.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see these results when we get home forward.
Yeah. So if we can just scroll through quickly, if people want, we don't have to.
yeah, let's just go through it quickly.
So walking path expansion, also, people also were, fairly, put a fair amount of importance on that. And then, we reduce as we go. Lighting was the next one. Amphitheater repairs or improvements, came in higher than I would have guessed. So that's an interesting one. It's also,
And Kevin probably voted more than once.
what was that?
Kevin probably voted more than once. No.
People are doing that.
Group picnic improvements, pretty, steady distribution across the board. And outdoor fitness equipment, got, a little bit less importance put on it. And then, walking path amenities is just things like benches and other tables, around the path, and these were detailed in the question order. And then the last one was dog park.
That's good. Oh, wow.
And then below that, there was a text field, open text field, and all of those are included here. I don't really need to, or actually, sorry, not all of them are included. I did a little bit of editorializing. There were some that were non-germane and some that were not necessarily civil. So I included the ones that I thought were potentially useful. I took a pretty broad criteria for potentially useful, but there were some that I excluded.
You get to do that.
Right.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Survey.
And then we can run quickly through the other one. The other one got fewer responses. The other one was specifically about what kind of play equipment people wanted. There are so many different options, and I think their playground consultant did a good job on things. Michael Cook did a good job on things. But I want to hear from users of the playground, what types of things they would want to see. So we can run through this one quickly if you want. So this one, rather than a 1 to 5 of having people rate each one, which I thought was going to get messy, instead I went through several hundred pieces of equipment that are provided by the playground manufacturer that they already use, and pulled out a bunch of them that I thought people might like, and asked people to pick up to 6 of their favorites. Let's see, how many had I included? I can't remember the exact number I included to begin with. So these were the, in order of these are the ones that got at least 20% of people wanted them, of the 32 respondents, or 35 respondents. And highest one was the one of these platform whirl. Next one down was a tandem swing with a toddler seat, which I thought was a good idea personally. Chimney rock, just some more interesting things to climb on. The topsy-turvy spinner was one that they had already included in their plans. So it's good to see that people like that one a lot as well. The shadow play try runner, I skewed the choices. I went with ones that I thought could conceivably get budget. I went with the lowest budget, high impact ones that I could find when I selected the ones for people to choose from. I didn't want to pull out a $50,000 piece of equipment and have everybody be like, that looks great, and then say, well, there's no way that's getting into the project. So this one was added by request. It's much beloved in the Fort Bragg playground. I have used it and seen kids use it. They have a lot of fun with it, but it's $20,000. So I included it. It did get quite a few votes. They can do with that as they will, as they're formulating the project. More climbing things. My summary to them said, there's definitely seems to be a lot of interest in various climbers. So there's a manta ray climber. The Jig Jag was also on their existing list, so it's good to see people like that one as well. This is something, they have something very similar in Twin Arena, kind of like a zip line. Another climber, this was another from their existing list. I think there's just a couple more here. Disc challenge. This was a standalone climbing feature. Yeah, another standalone climbing feature. So those were the ones that were most chosen. And this is also nice for us to think about for the future, even if some of these things don't get in. They are hopefully going to leave space in the playground area for future equipment that might have an alternate funding source. So if there are things that people really like, maybe we can raise money to put one of those in after the fact, once people use the playground.
Yeah, that was the toughest part of the survey, I thought. But it would have been interesting to hear exactly as kids that are younger than yours, right? It would have been interesting to hear what kind of input he would have given on all these things too.
Yeah.
But that's definitely impressive what you have done here. Yeah.
I'm fairly confident his input is included.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
So what are we? This is old business. So what are we doing here? Are we making any kind of recommendation?
Are there any additional comments that? I don't. I just appreciate that you've made the effort. I will note that some of the results here differ somewhat from previous survey input received, largely, I think, probably because the population of respondents is a little different.
Yeah.
Anyway, the important thing is you shook the tree one more time. You got some more input. Hopefully you're satisfied with what you got. I mean, it's a lot of effort, but hopefully you feel like this was a meaningful and productive exercise.
I do.
And I appreciate that you, again, time is of essence, and you really moved quickly and got the information into Integra's hands, into the county's hands, where they can do something with it to the extent they're able.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing I'll say about the population difference, because I very much agree with that. One notable thing from the community meeting at Walla Arts that they did, if you'll recall, that they scheduled it for Little League opening day. So there were very few parents represented at that prioritization meeting. So to the extent that this probably oversampled parents, it's to some extent balancing out that the other one almost certainly undersampled parents, which was a complaint. For what's worth, so.
Okay, do we need a motion?
I don't think so. The action's a discussion. Are there any other comments that if people want to add, and that would be an action? We have an option.
I believe that since this data has already been presented to the county of Mendocino people to look at this. With the expectation that they might actually do so, I'd say there is much more that would be under our purview.
But there is the committee, the Bower Park Renovation Committee, they're satisfied with this too, right? That there was this extra effort made by you to get comments on additional equipment?
That's been done.
Okay, then I don't see that we can do anything else.
Well,
But
other than applause, you guys did a great job. Thanks for doing it.
thanks,
And it is a lot of,
Bower Park Committee.
thanks, Henry.
All right. Man,
Thank you for all that work, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have it. Did that. Now, hopefully the project will
get
Get
going,
built.
yeah.
get moving.
We'll know more when? 21st, right? No, May 1st.
Yeah, May 1st.
Okay, then let's move on to the agenda. What are we doing here? 7:35. New business. We received the Redwood Valley MAC proposal for gas station moratorium. The recommended actions are to discuss the proposed moratorium and determine our response. Did you all get that from David? Right, and it was through the Redwood Valley MAC though, right? That we got?
Yeah, they're the ones who pitched it. Don, do you want to get out in front of this one?
Yeah, let me give you a little history of this. Grassroots Institute, with my input, ultimately, presented to the Board of Supervisors, and this was a little over a year ago, a recommendation to basically prohibit the construction of new gas stations in Mendocino County. And this is sort of following on the lead of other counties, other jurisdictions, specifically Sonoma County and Napa County, a number of jurisdictions, cities in those two counties have done this already. They've passed ordinances which ban the construction of new gas stations. And so we felt, you know, when I say we, I mean, Grassroots Institute and the group that I work with there, that it was time for Mendocino to come on board and do something similar, either a prohibition or a moratorium. So that was presented to the Board of Supervisors. Now, at the same time, roughly, there was a new gas station proposal in the works for Redwood Valley. So this request is coming from Redwood Valley, even though it's already been presented to the Board of Supervisors in the past. However, no further action was taken on it because of this pre-existing gas station proposal for Redwood Valley, which still seems to be in the works, even though the Planning Commission denied their proposal. And but the company that was proposing the gas station, they appealed to the Board of Supervisors. Board of Supervisors held several meetings, well, appeal hearings during the regular meeting, none of which terminated in any vote or recommendation one way or the other, because it kept getting thrown back to the company proposing this, which is Phazon Corporation. And there's also some Caltrans involvement, because one of the stipulations that Caltrans made for this new gas station was that the median, and this is at the juncture of 101 and North State Street in Ukiah. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but North State Street terminates at Highway 101. And in that area of Highway 101, there's a median strip, and the downhill traffic coming from, say, Willits, they can turn left across the median strip onto North State Street to the area where this gas station would be built. So Caltrans took a look at that and said, because of the increased traffic that this gas station would cause, that crossing of the median strip represents a real hazard that needs to be mitigated. And that mitigation was to close that access point in the median strip. And Caltrans stated that the cost of this closing of the median would have to be borne by the company proposing the gas station, the applicant. Well, the applicant didn't like that and basically said, well, if that's a requirement, we can't do this, because it's estimated that it would cost around $2 million. So it went back and forth, and there were new traffic studies done that supposedly said it wouldn't be as bad as Caltrans thinks it would be, and this and that. And basically, we're still at a point where the final appeal hearing has not been held, to my knowledge, in front of the Board of Supervisors. And the Phazon Corporation apparently is adjusting their plans somehow, and I'm not totally familiar with how they are doing that, in order to presumably avoid, while still being able to build a gas station, avoid having to close that median. So that appears to be where we're at, and Redwood Valley MAC in the past has voted unanimously to oppose this for several reasons, mainly because there already is a gas station in that area, not far away from where they want to build this gas station. So the community is already served. As a matter of fact, there's 2 gas stations in Redwood Valley. One of them is not very far away from where they want to build this new gas station. So I'm trying to summarize this, but it's actually a little bit more complicated than what I'm presenting to you, and I don't want to go into too much detail. But Redwood Valley now, they see a need in order, I guess, to stop this construction, to ask the county to just prohibit new gas stations or place a moratorium in effect, which would effectively prohibit new gas stations in Mendocino County. Now, myself and GRI, we have done some research, and in fact, if you compare the number of gas stations in Mendocino County with Sonoma County, obviously the counties are way different in size. So the way we did it was we looked at gas stations per 10,000 residents. And when you do it that way, Mendocino County has twice as many gas stations as Sonoma County. So there are plenty of gas stations in Mendocino County. Same with Humboldt County, although the disparity is not as large, but we have more per 10,000 residents gas stations than Humboldt County. So, myself and GRI, we felt that there really is no need for new gas stations in Mendocino County. On top of that, where is transportation heading, especially in California? It's heading towards electric vehicles. There are more and more electric vehicles sold every year in California. What does that do? That reduces the demand for gas stations. So, you know, these are the primary arguments that are being made to have Mendocino County implement either a prohibition or a moratorium on new gas stations. So Redwood Valley MAC then is, I guess they're asking all of the MACs now to get on board and recommend to the Board of Supervisors that either a prohibition or a moratorium be put into effect. So that's what Redwood Valley is asking us to do as another MAC, as they are. And, so you know, we could discuss this. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. But that's essentially what the ask is from Redwood Valley.
Have any cities done this yet in Mendocino County? I know there's only 4, but none of them have acted on this or been asked to sign on to this moratorium.
No, curiously, in Sonoma County, it started with cities.
Yeah.
And then finally, the whole county did it as well. Almost every city in Sonoma County, there may be a couple that haven't done this yet, but you know, Petaluma, Sebastopol, Santa Rosa, they've all passed a prohibition.
Yeah, I was just wondering if any of the cities have signed on to this recommendation in the cities in Mendocino County.
Well,
has this been presented to Ukiah?
no,
Bragg.
not yet,
Yeah.
not that I am aware of, and that's because GRI typically has historically worked with the county. And we know the people in the county.
Yeah.
So we felt, in the case of Mendocino, we'd work with the county first and then move towards the cities. So that's why none of the cities have adopted anything like this yet.
And the follow-up would be that if the county passes that, would that be binding on the city?
No, it would not.
Okay,
Because the county really, any type of ordinance that the county passes is really, it's implemented for the unincorporated areas of the county, not for incorporated areas, which are cities, because those are separate jurisdictions.
yeah. I know that there are things like county ordinances, like leash laws, that cities don't have to have, the county can enforce them in the city.
Well, the county, I don't believe the county can pass an ordinance like this and have it, you know, be impose that on the cities.
Okay, thank you.
So based upon what you've said and what they've written to us here, the Redwood Valley MAC, and just because in Sonoma County it happened that the cities did it first, I don't see an issue with Mendocino County as an unincorporated area trying to get this 5-year moratorium going first. Maybe the cities will follow the example of the county in reverse from Sonoma County. And then having been to that site and having witnessed or seen, I mean, I know there's gas stations that are relatively close by. Most gas stations tend to be in our cities around here. We've only got one in Point Arena, but Fort Bragg, Willits, and Ukiah are all along the main corridor. I think this is very reasonable, and it affects the people in Redwood Valley quite a bit, apparently. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone to this length with this resolution. So my opinion is I would approve this. I would want to see us maybe write a letter or back to them that we would be in favor of this, but that's my opinion.
So on a personal level, I would happily support this. I would write a message to the Board of Supervisors requesting that they institute this. Like, I think this is great. Would absolutely support it. As a MAC, it makes me itchy. You know, Mendocino County has not solicited our feedback on this, even though it's been put before the board already. It's not coming from our constituents, there hasn't been a large group of residents pushing for this. It's a request from Redwood Valley MAC that we put this on our agenda and support them in it. And that doesn't feel like what we're supposed to be doing, like that we're a creation of the Board of Supervisors. We're meant to be an arm for them as a community liaison. And this doesn't, because we have not been asked for our input from either side of the entities we're bridging, which are, the residents of our footprint and the county. Neither side has asked us to weigh in on this. So I'm not convinced that it's our role to weigh in on it, even if we think it's good policy, which I personally do. That's my 2 cents, but I'm happy to hear that I'm wrong on that. I would love for that to be a thing we should do.
Having heard your input now, I think you're right. However, why did we put this on the agenda? We weren't really asked by Redwood Valley to put it on the agenda, but we did it for.
No,
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't see that in this letter that I have from them.
It's not in the whereases, it's in the
There's an
email.
transmission, so.
Oh, okay, I just copied the letter, I guess.
Kevin Evans received the email, he's as the chairperson,
That's right, and forwarded it to all of us, right?
and then I forwarded
You did,
Yeah.
the stuff as my secretary.
right.
So GMAC has been asked to climb on board this commentary by the Redwood Valley MAC, and the GRI Committee on Climate Change is clearly in support of this as well.
Yeah.
And GRI, does cover our constituents.
Yeah.
Don sits in that group, so
Yeah.
we do have coverage there. I get your anxiousness, Henry. I think that GMAC can say something about it if, again, the majority chooses to do so. Again, we don't have authority here. Some of our, we initiate input based on our various committees that is not necessarily responsive to the county saying, hey, what do you think about economic development? So it's not totally out of bounds. It is a land use matter. It's an environmental matter. So that seems kind of within our topical remit. But I acknowledge your sense of ill ease. I don't think it's, but again, I don't think it's a foul that we would be sanctioned for if we were to make it.
Yeah.
It's not out of our jurisdictional area though, right?
Well, insofar as this would be a countywide moratorium on the approval or the consideration of gas station projects, which could potentially be tendered here in Walla or within GMAC area. That's potentially within our remit. But in and of itself, if the sole case is the one up in Redwood Valley, but that isn't what's being presented. Redwood Valley is saying that they think it's a good idea for the county to get out of this business, the county, everywhere. Yeah. Which would include us.
Yeah, well, I will say the thing that made that brought on my ill ease was I was remembering when there was chatter about the possibility of the county shutting down the MACs. Was that maybe a year and a half ago, something like that? I don't remember the exact dates on it, but there was a sense, it felt like from the county that there were MACs that were overstepping their bounds. They made it very clear we were not among them. But I worry just a little bit, like, let's say every MAC signs on to this and the county gets a letter dropped on them. That is every MAC having communicated outside of county channels to then attempt to bring some pressure, however limited, to bear on the Board of Supervisors in support of something they have not requested feedback on. I worry that the county will react poorly to that. Then again, it's not like some massive advocacy campaign. I don't think this is necessarily a huge worry. It's just, that was what popped into my head, so.
What would
Yeah.
you think about the idea, Henry, acknowledging your illies of it, of this, getting out in front of county's authorization? Should GMAC ask the county if it wants our input on this pitch? Clearly, this is happening. This is a topic of discussion throughout in different parts of the county, particularly the unincorporated county. We could convey a request to Director Krogh and ask her, is this something she wants to hear from us on? Because we see that we have an interest, because it's a discussion in unincorporated territory. They like to hear any input from us on the topic. And if she says no, then we don't get sanctioned for drawing out of our, going out of our sandbox. And if she says yes, we get to have a conversation and somebody gets to write a letter.
I would unreservedly support that.
Right.
Yeah.
Ask
Yep.
for permission.
Yeah.
A lot more comfortable, yeah.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, I totally understand, your concerns, Henry, and I kind of anticipated them. It does seem like it's something that maybe is a little bit out of our wheelhouse, but on the other hand, if you think about the fact that we are in an unincorporated area, and a measure like this would impact our area specifically, it would not permit any more gas stations to be built here. We already have 2, so it's not likely that any more would be built here, but this is a county-wide matter that will likely be proposed to the board again soon. So therefore, it will impact our unincorporated area. So I do think we have the possibility then to comment on this. Because it is a county-wide issue. It's not just one city or another city in the county. So therefore, I do think we could do that. And what I proposed is that perhaps I could draw it up, unless somebody else does, a resolution. It'd be a simple worded resolution of our support for either a prohibition or a moratorium. And then we could, discuss that, the wording of it, whatever. We're not gonna, I don't think tonight we necessarily should vote on this. Because I think if we're gonna make a resolution, propose something, we should do that and then put it on the website so people can see it, see what we're doing, and then we vote on it. Whether we want to follow through with that or not. The other thing is, I think we need a little bit more information as to the timing of what may or may not happen soon with the Board of Supervisors. And really, this is it's a Board of Supervisors issue. It's not really the planning department. It's a Board of Supervisors issue, because they would have to approve an ordinance. Now, the Planning Commission, they might have to get involved in this. But I'm not sure about the Planning Department, but the Planning Commission, perhaps, yeah. Anyway, that's what I would propose, that we draft a resolution. Also, get a better understanding of timing of this, because if Redwood Valley is going to approach the Board of Supervisors, say at their next meeting or a meeting in a month, then we know this is going to be a hot issue before the Board of Supervisors, and it impacts unincorporated areas, and that's us. So I do think we have the ability and the right to make a comment on something that impacts unincorporated areas.
So I like all this input, but two things that I'm standing out to me now is based upon what Dave said, is maybe run it by Julia, and then you maybe drop at the same time drafting a resolution for us to look at. Would that be something that everybody would?
Would it make sense to run it by Ted Williams instead of, or in addition to?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's a good.
Good idea. Mhm.
Since we wouldn't be communicating that to the executive, we'd be communicating it to the board.
Sure.
Avoiding overstepping our bounds is an important thing, and you know, getting a little bit of feedback beforehand, input would be great. Dan?
Those could be
Yeah,
simultaneous.
who wants to contact Ted then? I mean, I can, or somebody else wants to, that's.
Yeah, I completely agree with contacting Ted Williams. I don't think you need to contact the whole board of supervisors
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah.
No,
As far as it being outside our wheelhouse, it kind of is. I don't see anybody intending to build another gas station in the wall within the boundaries of GMAC. I could see possibly somebody in a place like Compchi or inland, nowhere's still kind of places, because they have to get in their car and drive a half an hour to get to the gas station. And, you know, that's not coastal, and it's kind of their business, not ours. And on the other side, I completely agree with Don that, you know, in terms of gas stations per capita, we're up there, we're not, so. If Ted doesn't have an objection to it, I'd vote for
I did go looking in the policy 51 that formalized the max to see whether it would give any indication about whether this is in our wheelhouse or not. I found a section that suggested yes, and another that suggested no. I can read them if people want, but I do not need to.
I don't think it's really clear. This is a wobbler, but if you're nervous about it, we should really pay attention to what you're nervous about. I think it's a great idea. Ask Ted what he wants us to do. Maybe we're one of his max. So, you know, if he wants to hear what we think, ask him to tell us if he wants to hear from us. If he doesn't want to hear from us, he can tell us that too.
Yeah.
You know,
And we can do that simultaneously. We can ask Ted and, you know, put in the resolution, and then either it gets on the agenda or it doesn't. Or it gets on the agenda and either we vote on it or we don't, depending.
one way to streamline the action would be the one person who's out in front of this, which is Don.
Mhm.
You know, GMAC can ask Don to proceed on parallel tracks, go ahead and draft something that he feels would be appropriate for our consideration. But ask Ted if Ted would be interested in hearing from us, getting a resolution from us. You know, you're not wasting any time. Ted gets back to you, says, yes, you're already there. And like you're gonna let Robert or Kevin know, and it'll be on the agenda. And if Ted says, then you have your answer, right?
Then we're covered, yeah. Just
That's
put-
one way of approaching it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Put yourself in the shoes of Redwood Valley MAC. If we were to be facing the same situation over here, we'd probably be doing something similar, I would think. Reaching out to all the other MACs and trying to get some help, because I don't know how many gas stations are right in that vicinity, but there's two that I think I saw when I was over there one time, and I remember going to the top, to the very end of what is it, North State Street there?
yeah,
And it doesn't feel right to have one there, but then the other thing that occurs to me, Henry, is like economic competition and all that enters to play a little bit too, but in my mind. But then again, we are getting away from gas stations, like you've said, like you've demonstrated to us. So why? I mean, look at the example that's being set by all these. I mean, I grew up in Santa Rosa, all these other cities down in Sonoma County. We don't need to, in my opinion, but that's just me personally.
so by the way, one point of clarification is that any prohibition or moratorium would grandfather in every existing gas station, so it's not banning any existing gas station. They all stay operational, not a problem. It's just new construction, also expansion. If some existing gas station wants to add 5 or 6 more pumps, that would be prohibited too.
What effect would it have on ones that are under permit consideration, like the one in Redwood Valley?
Oh, well, they don't have a permit yet.
Yeah, okay, but
They don't have invested.
They didn't.
the application has been put in.
Right.
So
but
it
it
would be
still
ex
has not
post
been-
facto on that.
I guess that's what Redwood Valley is trying to achieve.
So there's their timeliness.
But
constraint.
maybe they're counting on the ultimate denial of that permit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I need to get in touch with them and find out a little bit more of their approach on this issue. So, do you want me to contact Ted? Or does somebody else want to contact Ted?
I think you guys are both with GRI quite a bit, maybe
My,
one.
my recommendations, for me, if I'll make the motion, but we probably should hear from John or offer John an opportunity to speak.
also.
But the motion I would make would be to ask you to stay in the lead. And do all the communications and be the point of contact on this. I'm not sufficiently familiar with the issues, and I'm not gonna
I-
climb up to speed in
I
time.
agree with Dave on that. We'll
Yeah.
take input then from John still, and then we'll see if we do anything on this, okay? Did you want to say something on this, John?
Well, I think
like
maybe
he does.
looking at it for 10,000 people, a gas station is maybe that should be
Microphone?
compared, that might be compared to how many gas stations are there in the county, and then divide that by the square miles of the county? Because a lot of them are, they have to be, like we say, they're 20, 30 minutes away from the gas station and have to go to get gas just to get out to a grocery store or something. So, maybe there's kind of two things floating in here. One is that got plenty of gas stations, but they're not really positioned every 10 miles or 20 miles or whatever it is. And of course, who's gonna put a gas station out in the middle of nowhere? Not many people, unless there's a lot of people coming. They will come.
Well, that's the point. The reason there aren't perhaps more gas stations out in remote areas, is because it's not economical. They lose money. They need to be in areas where they get fair amount of traffic.
They need a lot of customers,
They
no
do.
matter what.
So maybe Compchi, for example, would never be a viable location if.
Well, you've got Stewart's Point down the road too,
Okay, we've heard everybody's input. Why don't we move on and are we gonna make a motion or any?
Let me make a motion because we are gonna take an action of sort. My motion is to request that council member Hess stay in the lead of this topic. That he, according to his judgment, draft material for GMAC consideration. And that he contact Supervisor Williams to determine if Supervisor Williams would be interested in getting input or a recommendation from GMAC on the Redwood Valley proposal. That's my motion.
Who wants to say?
Second.
Second from Henry. Go ahead.
Okay, well, it's not so much the Redwood Valley proposal. Well, it is if we consider the Redwood Valley proposal a moratorium or a prohibition for the county.
Yeah, we got
It's
an
not,
email.
it's not, we're not really,
We got an email from Redwood Valley.
Yeah.
With an action encapsulated in it.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I'm referring to without unpacking it.
okay, so it's not the gas station that is proposed.
The Redwood Valley MAC asked us to do something.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
their motion ends with, be it resolved that the county of Mendocino hereby enacts a moratorium immediately from adoption of this ordinance, banning the acceptance of any application for construction of new gas stations, for the expansion of existing gasoline infrastructure, or for the approval or issuance of any pending permit application.
More general.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second by Henry. Any other discussion? Then we'll vote on it. Henry,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Tom,
Hi,
Dave,
Aye.
Robert, aye. Okay, so that concludes our new business item for the evening. We're on to committee reports. Bower Park renovation. Would there be any?
You want to do that
I
again?
think,
Yeah.
Would there
I
be?
think you all have heard my
I'll do that
voice
again.
enough tonight. Thank you, by the way, for giving me all the time.
I have so much to say.
Wait.
Dan, anything you want to add?
No, I think we beat that one up.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Then, who wants to take the floor here or take over I'll recuse myself for a moment here,
I'll
okay?
take it.
Okay,
Thank you, Robert. Just note that. Really, brief update on State Route 1, Walla downtown streetscape. As of a report that is submitted by Caltrans District 1 to MCOG, schedules, no change in schedule. Construction calendar is to begin March 2026. They're still in PS&E phase, which is plan specifications, engineering. It's all pre-bid, final design. Part of final design is also right-of-way acquisition, and so all of that stuff is happening. So I don't have, other than that, that's the update on State Route 1 Walla Streetscape project. Let me just mention a couple other things related to State Route 1, or just one other thing. The report in that same document that's part of the MCOG agenda for their upcoming meeting on Monday is a line item on the sinkhole at the bottom of Old State Highway. That one is still awaiting district director approval for emergency funds. The calendar for the start construction date was March, so they're late. But that's how these emergency repairs are generally reported. They report a date to start construction, which is when they can mobilize, but more often than not, they can't execute until they've got the money. And the money takes more time. So we know they're paying attention to it and they're waiting for direction of money to come from the state. And that's it.
considered an emergency repair down there, right?
That's going to be an emergency project under the SHOPP program. That's the State Highway Operations and Preservation Program. So that's all I got.
So you guys can let me return.
Please do.
Okay, we'll go on to Walla Community Center,
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
Walla Community Center reconstruction and master plan. Kevin is usually heading that up, but he's not here. Anybody else have any input on that? You probably saw that the pink house got demolished, so that's a little bit of progress. Okay, hearing nothing, we'll go on to 10.4 local coastal program and town plan update. We've heard some on that already, right?
Yeah, a little bit. So just, I think I shared a lot of the material from the last GRA. That, and Frank, it's just great. League of Women Voters generated a set of notes. That was convenient. So if you don't have time to listen to the entire webinar, which is recorded and posted at GRA, you can read the notes. They're okay. They're pretty accurate. The other thing that I sent around to you guys was a slideshow that Peter McNamee has developed. Here's his paper copy. You guys hopefully had a chance to look through it.
Mhm.
So what Peter is attempting to do is generate a shorthand, quick picture of major items by segment in the coastal program. And the way that he is breaking these segments up appears to correspond to the way the county currently segments the local coastal program. What I'm interested in is whether or not this exercise accurately or meaningfully captures what's going on in our neck of the woods, our South Coast neck of the woods for Walla, and to the extent that we want to offer commentary on Point Arena, or even as far up as Iverson North up to the lighthouse, wherever we think our geography of concern or interest, or an opinion, worthwhile opinion. The draft is just what it is, and I talked a little bit with Peter about this. This document, what he's done is intended to provoke a reaction. He wants people to see that he's making an attempt to capture ideas. And he says right off the bat, this is a work in progress. He doesn't know the South Coast. He can't get down here. And he's not pretending to know it, and he's not trying to get in front of us. But what he's suggesting is that this might be a useful way to capture high-hitting issues. For example, the need for the county to follow through on a promise to RCMS, fix the zoning of its property. I mean, that could be one of those bullet points that ends up in a slide like this. In fact, it should. So there's a vehicle that's in play, and I think it's neat that he's doing it. And I think it represents one kind of input that makes sense, and it's easy to kind of share this sort of thing. It's a soundbite, talking point type of accumulation of issues. I don't think it's the only thing that we should do, because there are more granular details that wouldn't necessarily show up in something like this, that we ought to have. My recommendations, we ought to have a pretty good sense of what those granular details are. When the question and comment comes to us, and it's a 2-week window or a month-long window, we won't be flat-footed. We'll be ready to kind of hit the road running. So my suggestion is something along these lines. We've got this sort of idea. One way we could tackle something like this prospectively would be to next month kind of go away and come back next month with some ideas of what we would put on a slide. And I'd be happy to record those ideas and convey them back to Peter. And it's not just we. John, you've got some ideas. Peter, or George got some ideas that we agendize an item on our next monthly agenda, to have a informal kind of shake the tree. What are the ideas that come to mind? And I'll send those back to Peter for his next updated draft. And the nice thing about doing it next month is that the next GRI workshop will be on the 15th of May. But I would ask him to share that back to the agencies.
Excuse me, I didn't want to break. I have never seen this, so I don't know where it came from.
It came from Peter McNamee, who is the lead person at the Grassroots Institute.
Okay.
Who has been convening local coastal program updates with agencies, the engaged agencies, every 2 months.
Wow.
And you are invited to attend those.
Right, so let the council finish on this, but this is
Yeah.
where George was talking about earlier,
Yeah.
and you just addressed it.
Yeah.
Would be perfect for George or for John to go to this Grassroots Institute and bring up the things like with the
Yeah.
heliport.
Yeah.
That is part of the local coastal plan update to address this zoning.
And there
Back
may
here.
be, and there are other issues too.
Yeah.
For example, reconciling, there's a fairly short list of land use mapping conundrums, or they're just problems that can be fixed relatively efficiently without generating piles of environmental impacts. But they're corrections, cleanups, modernizations. Those are the types of things that would be, I think, very good to inventory.
Who's going to do those corrections?
It would be the county.
So Dave, one of my.
Your consultant.
Okay,
Hang
hang on a sec, John.
hang on. One of my questions was, I printed this list of things here from.
Yeah.
The proof of water requirements portion of the study will be a crucial guide for future development. That caught my attention.
Good.
So how is he gonna go about that? I mean,
Okay, that's
other
not
than
on
the county going about trying to get input from everybody that's on a well, I remember that coming out.
And they did. The county did
And they got a
send
lot of input.
information out.
Mhm.
I don't know what they've got, because, all right, there are a series of technical studies that are part of the local coastal program update. Can you hear me? Can you hear me speaking, John? Can you hear me speaking? All right, I'm gonna speak more loudly and I'm gonna address you.
You want me
And I
to
think-
move up?
Yeah,
have a seat,
feel
have a
free
seat.
to move up.
Come on up. Do we have anybody else on?
But you gotta sit on the chair out here. You can't sit at the panel.
Now go, come on.
Chairman, this one?
Yeah, you get closer that way.
All right, so join us, John. So the local coastal program update that is being led by the county, funded by the Coastal Commission, two grants, has a set of technical studies. One of the technical studies has to do with the groundwater analysis, because groundwater is or water supply, whether it comes from the ground or from the surface water, or even from desal, is a serious constraint on the coast. It's how we use the land and how we inhabit it, and whether we develop more or we develop less. So that's one of the focused technical studies. There's a working group that's been convened. They're generating a technical report that will include recommendations about changes to proof of water requirements by the county for development.
I think in Mendocino.
Because climate's changing. Water's not where it was. And where water might not be where development's got to go. This study might also include recommendations on actions the county can take with water purveyors. But I'm not involved directly in that study, but it is out there. Technical studies are going to be completed by the experts. When they are in draft form, they will be presented for public review. Not necessarily for a lot of public input, because these are technical expert documents.
Definitely we want to see those.
The county intends to make them available for people to see and to understand the technical documentation that will eventually lead to policy formation. Policy formation is where the lay public and us will have some more active involvement. But the county's approach to technical studies is, again, those are in the realm of technical experts. Those have been retained. And those documents are being developed. Other technical studies included highway capacity analysis, Highway 1, major land use constraint, biological resources, archaeological resources, cultural resources. Those are other technical constraints. So those, there are, again, I may have missed a study or two, but each of these local coastal program updates that are being convened by grassroots institutes includes an update from Director Krogh on progress of the technical studies that are being managed by her department. Oh, sea level rise and sea level vulnerability technical study. So it's really, these are useful sessions. They're at 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. They're on the web. You can connect to it, turn the volume up, connect your earphones to them. They're really quite useful and they're pretty efficient.
This was interesting too, a proposed wave-powered water desalination project up in Fort Bragg. Interesting.
So in addition to the local coastal program work, agencies give people updates on things that are coastal related, like stuff that the city of Fort Bragg is doing. They're doing a whole transport analysis on Noyo Harbor. Because Noyo Harbor transport, there are good words for it that are not to be spoken in public, something along the lines of show. And they're looking at desal. They're looking at getting grants from federal agencies to deal with emergency resiliency, climate change and emergency resiliency. And there are other kinds of studies going up and down the coast, and we're running out of time. So I strongly recommend.
See that if you can. Forward it to me.
No, I'm just gonna hand it to you, pal. There you go.
Thank you.
I have my own copy. You can
These two
obtain
go
this
to the
document.
GRI and things quite a bit,
Yeah,
but
Don, I think you're.
at the time I would go to if I had. Go ahead. Lynn.
Yeah, all I want to say is that, I think it's a good idea if we try to get ahead of this.
Yeah.
Because eventually, Julia Krogh, as part of this process, will convene, a general meeting or information session with us as the local MAC. And it's probably best, it's in our interest to get a handle on the major issues that we feel are important in our neighborhood here, so that we're somewhat prepared before that meeting. So.
or the reviews that come to us. We're supposed to see these things. We will see them. I trust that the county will show us the technical documents when they're ready for us to see.
But I don't think we necessarily need to wait for the technical documents to
I think that
put
we know,
together a list of issues that we feel this
Yep.
local coastal plan update should address.
and the sooner we can share those things, the sooner they draw attention. I think that's part of what Mr. McNamee is doing, is he's trying to provoke the residents and businesses and visitors of this coast to get engaged. Don't sit back passively waiting for this thing to come to us, but start talking, have a conversation about it. You know, what are the things we think about? What are the issues that people who've been here should be in front of the technical studies and eventually the policy formation work? And that can be done anytime. And I think, frankly, as soon as it's convenient for us to do it, we don't have to be anxious about it. We can take this on as kind of a work in progress. We can get together next month and I'd be happy to start to be the scribe. I can take in the ideas as they come and translate them back or transmit them back to GRI. Peter's willing to do this. I think this is his work is a gift. It's a lot of work and I appreciate that he's doing it in a way that's coast-wide. That doesn't mean that we give up any
Well, we're
South
not-
Coast attention,
Yeah, we're not even mentioning this.
but we are. Look at the last slide.
The last slide.
It's a north to south report, John. Don't get yourself bunched up about prejudice. You know, he's doing the best he
I
can.
think it's the first time that Peter
Yeah.
was able to
No.
focus on the South Coast, John. So this is,
Essentially, he's saying
Sorry, wait,
This is-
South Coast.
it's
yeah.
a placeholder.
this is,
Well-
this is committee, you guys, and so we're just trying to get a committee report from him
Yeah.
and give you some input so you can get on GRI if you want to too.
Yeah, go to the
Okay.
website.
So then, rather than get discussing this, we want to get our meeting to a close here too.
Great idea.
So Committee
If they
report.
Come to town.
Sorry.
and-
no, you have to get on a Zoom, John. You have to get on a Zoom. We'll get you on there for you. Okay, so now we will go on to the next committee report.
Okay, so just one
Is that
last question.
one last, go ahead.
Would you like me to, eventually, this will be old business. We can just call it old business if you like. Would you like an item on old business at the next agenda to have a discussion about, from GMAC's perspective and participating members of the public, what are the items that ought to be considered as part of the LCP update? And I can begin a list, we can have a discussion. We don't have to kill ourselves at any given time, but just to have essentially a place for us to have a conversation, other than a committee
I
update.
think it'd be worthwhile exercise, is my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I would also, I think that it might be worth soliciting input more broadly. I don't know if this would be, seems like it might be a good opportunity for a letter to the editor, notifying people who read the ICO that this is coming down the pipe and that there is an opportunity to deliver feedback, and we can ask people to come to the meeting and or to just email us their thoughts. That might be a way to get sort of a broader net to catch feedback.
Not to mention the website, right? To
Yeah.
reach out to as many people that make them aware of this, okay?
Yeah, we don't, it doesn't have to be like a huge, we don't have to flyer, but you know.
Dan,
Yeah, I think what we saw on the screen there also, bypass is one of the major reasons people live here, and that's quality of life. I mean, we live here because we are 2 hours from a freeway. We wouldn't live here if we didn't like that.
but only 5 minutes from a gas station.
Hey, man.
I'm about 7.5, but yeah.
Okay, so what I understand is I'll go ahead and set an item. It'll be, I'm gonna call it old business because this is really an ongoing issue, if that's okay.
Okay,
And I'll come up with the words, but essentially this is a discussion, an ongoing discussion item for us to discuss issues of concern for the LCP update, for GMAC to support a community conversation, ongoing community conversation. Something like that.
that's
Okay,
good.
so we're gonna elevate it from community report into this old business.
Okay,
Okay, great, I'll do that.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
but we'll still have the item under committee
We'll keep the
report.
committee report, sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so we go on now? Economic development?
Thanks, Robert. I'm
You
sorry.
bet,
I'm
you bet.
sorry.
Other than, no, I'm glad he's piped in, trending some more. Other than what Kevin mentioned last time about the welcoming sign coming into town, that there still is no progress on that. I don't have anything under economic development, so we can go right on to website, social media, telecommunications. Don's department there, if you want to update us on anything, Don.
Yeah, okay. Well, first off, if you look up on the screen, we've got an account now, Blue Sky, the social network. I discussed this with Henry. We thought this was a good idea. Because this is a way we can quickly get information out. And of course, we would want to encourage people to be on Blue Sky as well. We just thought this was great. It's easy to do, doesn't cost anything. And both Henry and I can post stuff on this social network. So
Did Ted weigh in on it?
yeah, it is not an issue with Ted.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, I already checked with Ted.
Great. Thank
The
you.
only thing he had a concern about was the information we post should be information that GMAC wants posted.
Yeah.
Not stuff that either myself or
Yeah.
you would put on there just because of a personal reason.
I'm not planning to opine on national politics on our GMAC.
No. Of course.
That's
I've got my own Blue Sky account. I'm sure Henry has his own. We can use those,
Is this,
for our
are
own
you gonna be
personal.
moderating this then in some fashion, or is it
There
just,
is no moderation.
Yeah,
it's just,
So it could get out of hand.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's not true. You could block.
well,
This is basically
I
Twitter.
mean, if people respond.
Think of this as just, it's Twitter, only
Yeah.
not a cesspool.
Yeah, exactly. If people respond, I think that's okay, but what we're not gonna get, I have no intention of getting into any kind of a conversation on here with anybody who
So-
might respond.
oh, it's a way of pushing
Right.
stuff out, it's pushing.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
not
just
like,
pushing information
reading-
out. If people want
Writing
to,
posts or anything like that, it's not gonna be.
people want to repost or share this information or comment. Personally, I think that's okay,
No.
but we're not gonna engage in any back and forth.
Right. And I would, people might say horrible things in response, and I would say we should not make any effort to moderate. A, because we're not gonna do it well, and B, because once you start blocking as a government entity, which, we're a quasi.
That's
You
a
run
risk.
into.
That's a
issues.
risk inherent to taking this step then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, there are any number of public agencies that have Twitter accounts. Now there are increasingly many that have Blue Sky accounts. It's the same thing. In general, they don't moderate. I have seen the responses to government entities. They are often robust feedback.
Mhm.
They don't moderate because you get into free speech issues once you start choosing what speech you allow and what speech you don't in response to a government entity's post. So it's not exactly new ground for a government entity to be posting stuff. The original poster of something does not have any responsibility for the replies.
Is it possible to set it up so it's just post out and no reply taken? Just an information, it's just push rather than,
You could say, you can have a setting, you might be able to have a setting of no replies. You can certainly have a setting that says no replies except those who this account follows.
well,
The account could follow a handful of Mendocino officials and nothing else, or nobody at all.
it begs the question, once you get on the slope, it's hard to stop. If we take stuff in, we have to moderate. Somebody's gotta watch it, somebody's gotta do something with it. Whereas if we're just pushing stuff up, it's essentially, it's another modality of an internet web page. But perhaps more accessible because it's on this social media platform. Can we set it up so we don't take anything back? It's just that, it's a one-way, this is just out, guys.
As a technical matter, yeah, sure.
Look at the setting right up here. So it says reply settings, allow replies from everybody, nobody. Right now I have it checked nobody.
Is there any reason why we want replies here?
It's to gather ideas. to
Only if-
Maybe, but not
Yeah, I mean,
replies.
potentially it's informative to read a comment from a local citizen. Since they often don't come to our meetings and we don't really have a mechanism for citizens to give us input unless they come to our meeting, do we?
Okay, so the protocol then is if something comes in, I'm not gonna go here to look at it. I don't have an account, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
That's just my religion.
Yeah.
But so it'll be incumbent upon you as the master then to bring commentary to us and share it with the group on a monthly basis. Is that the protocol you're having?
That would, if we were gonna, accept comment, yeah.
Okay.
We would share some or all of it.
How do you share with the rest of the people in the world?
They go to,
They go
they go
there.
to look at it.
You know, I have to
Public.
go find that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Well,
it's like everything else.
finding us on the Blue Sky is simple. You search GMAC, I've set it up, so you just search for GMAC and it finds it.
It's the same, it's the analog, John. If you want to see a legal notice that's published in a newspaper, you have to buy a newspaper. Or go to the library and pick it up and borrow it. It's just another newspaper.
And if people want to hear your comments at our meetings, they have to come to the meeting or watch the YouTube recording or see the minutes if it's in the minutes.
YouTube's
right?
available on
This is just
it.
as,
Or you have to go back up to the GMAC website and step off of it for meetings.
We could put a link to the YouTube meeting in Blue Sky, of course.
And Don posts the verbatim recording of every meeting at the GMAC website in YouTube.
Yeah,
You can go,
and it's usually pretty good, 3-4 days, it's there.
yeah, well, he's awesome.
It's usually faster than that. Usually next day.
They have the comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, as long as we can't get a bunch of people on there flaming each other on our side. Using inappropriate language, and I think it's cool.
Now, I've also, want to let you know that I've also set up a Facebook account. I haven't really done anything with it, of course, but it's there if we want to do Facebook as well. And, the thing is, not everybody is going to be on Blue Sky. Not everybody's on Facebook. There probably are a lot more people on Facebook than on Blue Sky at this point.
Yeah.
But Blue Sky is growing as an alternative to X Twitter. Elon Musk's, cesspool network, social network system. But so the whole idea here is to get information that we feel is important for the community to know out on different platforms, not just one platform. The fact of the matter is more people interact with social networks now, I think, than just go to websites. Because it's easier, it's faster.
Go ahead.
yeah, so I would say a few things. One, I don't think you should conceptualize it as our site. It's our account that we're posting on and then people are replying, but we don't own the replies.
Right.
That's got enough, it's replies that people make. Two, the much more likely thing is that nobody ever replies to it. It's much more likely that we get nothing than that we get too much. And then three, if I'm wrong and we look at it and we're like, this is terrible, then we just shut it down. We just turn off replies and go along our way and, cut off the problem that way. But I would prefer to leave it in, let's see what we can get. And if people respond, that's great. I'd love to see it. And if we don't like the responses, we deal with that problem down the road. And I think that can be a responsibility of the committee to say, we can trade off months or whatever and monitor it loosely, see if we're getting replies that we want to bring back to the committee.
The other thing is, if we really want to move forward with this, which I think we should, in terms of just having multiple platforms to get our message out, in terms of trying to engage the community a little bit more than they're currently engaged, which is really at a minimal level. So, yeah, I think we need more than one platform. And the website, you know, is taking time. I'm sorry, but it's taking time to be completed, the new website. So, you know, our idea is to, okay, let's use these other platforms, which are easy to set up, doesn't cost anything. And then perhaps also somehow advertise this, make people aware. And it's got to be done in some manner other than just a recording, you know, of our meeting recording, because not everybody, you know, reviews that and listens to it. So we may, I would recommend that we at some point do some promotion once we get these other platforms, you know, up and running the way we want, which they're almost there.
Yep. Thank you for doing it.
If it's not that much
Or
work.
maybe we wait until we get the new website finished, then at that point, we promote the new website, the Blue Sky account, and Facebook.
I would recommend that complete media approach rather than piecemeal.
So no matter what, you're gonna have people who don't have a computer, who don't go to websites, who are kind of tight-knit little families, and they're happy with where they are, and they don't understand what's happening around them. And you
Well,
may
they-
never get to those folks.
We know.
Right, well, they'll depend on their leaders in the community they're depending on us, so. But no, the more outreach like you guys are trying to do here with the social media, and especially with, Ted Williams doesn't have anything against it, I think it's pretty neat, you know, myself. And,
Yeah.
We're always trying to get more involvement and more people to, be interested in our community affairs, it's always been the battle, seems like over the years, and now with all this additional technology that, I mean, I don't do social media. I mean, I don't even get on the trading post because I Facebook, it's all too much for me. So, but there's the youth of today that need that stuff, that want that stuff. That's how they communicate. So I'm all for it.
But if you see what I posted here as test posts, number one was the survey for Bauer Park,
Mhm.
and then tonight's meeting.
So
And
it's,
the agenda,
so it's active already, right? Blue Sky.
it is active.
How do I get on it?
You need a Blue Sky account.
Okay.
I don't actually think you do, unless you've set it up that way. You should be able to see this without a Blue Sky account.
Oh, from a browser.
But you'd have to know where to find it.
Yeah, like if I search, Blue Sky GMAC,
Yeah, see what
Okay.
that comes up with.
or what, I guess we're Walla Mac. Yeah. Blue Sky Walla Mac, yeah, it does not actually come up in Google. I wonder if it is set up to be public or not. I could take a look at that.
Blue's groovy stuff. Good job.
Okay, we got 15 minutes, you guys.
Oh, yeah, you can see it without an account. It's just
Okay. Interesting.
not worth Google's time, but you can see it without an account.
Okay, anything else on telecommunications?
No, I
You
see.
wanna share with us? Okay, thanks, Don. Thanks, Henry. So we're on to treasurer's report. Dan, anything there?
No,
Okay,
I'll just say one thing. I don't have the bill yet, from the ICO for the ad for the Bauer Park survey, but, I should get that before the next meeting, so,
Sure.
I'd love to put that on for treasurer's report for the next meeting.
Send it to me.
Yeah, once I get a bill,
When you're ready.
I'll send it to the two of you.
yeah, I'll be here for the next meeting, but I'm gonna be out of the country until April, May 1st.
Okay.
okay, thank you. Any council member comments and new business for future agenda? Other than we talked about with regards to,
Stuff we got.
GRI, input from there. I don't think we have anything else right at the moment.
Nope.
Okay, well, who would like to make a motion to adjourn then?
I move to adjourn.
You want to second it? He made the motion,
I'll
okay.
second.
Yep,
All in
sure.
favor?
Who's the third? Are you
I guess
gonna-
I'm the
He made the
mover.
motion, Tom made the second. Now we vote, all in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
All opposed?
all opposed.
I'll be here for